Oakland is without baseball. Well, maybe not. When billionaires and elites take something away from you, sometimes the people have to go ahead and go and take it back. And that's what two friends have done. While the A's are out of town, the B's are the new show. New minor league team, the Oakland Ballers in the Pioneer League, hired former Seattle Mariners manager Don Wakamatsu. He went to high school in nearby Hayward, California. Micah Franklin, former St. Louis outfielder, be the new manager. And when you have a new team, you need a new broadcaster as well. That's exactly who we got on here. Also an assistant general manager, Tyler Petersen. Why not both? How about that? We are now joined by Tyler Petersen, the assistant general manager, play-by-play man for the brand new Oakland Ballers. Tyler, how are we doing?
I'm doing all right, John. Thanks for having me on.
Of course. So just for the people, let us know, what your role is with this team and, what you're going to be doing this upcoming season.
So, as you said before, I am a couple things. First, I'm a team broadcaster, but what I really get paid for is I'm the assistant general manager of the club for baseball operations. And independent baseball really doesn't have many roles like that. I'm one of one who has that particular role. But we are creating a totally different kind of player program as far as the independent baseball circuit goes. Something that we feel we can really add to players' value, that we can get our guys better noticed by teams, by scouts. And we really hope that we can recruit well. We really hope that we can get guys marketed to the teams so that they can move up back into affiliate systems or into affiliate systems for the first time.
Gotcha. That's kind of how a lot of minor league broadcasting roles are. You're not just calling games. You're doing every other thing in the book you can imagine. Just do it for the love of the game, of course. That's got to help you with actually being the broadcaster as well, because you have to know everything. If you're going to be doing all that as well.
And I sort of fell into this role in a backwards kind of way, because my first job in the minor league baseball industry was with the Idaho Falls Chuckers in 2020. Well, we didn't have a season. I stayed on for 21, and we went from a Royals affiliate to an independent team for the first time. And there are a lot of things that never came up before for a team with a small front office. So, for example, travel. So all of a sudden I was doing, broadcasting media relations. Well, I had to learn, how to book buses and how to book hotels and how to take care of guys on the road, as far as food, as far as, just logistics. So I got to do a little bit of player ops there. It went hand in hand with my work as a broadcaster, because, if I'm doing media notes every day, I get to know these guys and get to go to the players, other teams, to sort of create my own little network. I took that to Rocky Mountain, which was also in that league. So 5 years in the Pioneer League now for me, coming in 24. But I took some of that knowledge in player ops to my job in Rocky Mountain. After that first year, I got a elevated position to run baseball operations. And for us, we had the idea of having a front office role, because usually it's just up to the managers and the coaching staff to recruit players,
right,
and to get them up and out. So we thought if we had someone in the front office doing it, one, we could say that we were doing more for players, which we were, and we were very successful in doing that. We didn't get many guys signed, but as far as the exposure each player got individually, we did a lot for them in that regard. But we were doing more with the resources we had to help guys out. And so I did that in 23 in Colorado Springs. And now I'm back home in my home, which is the Bay Area, doing it for the Ballers.
So you're a Bay Area guy. I mean, all that's a lot. There's a lot to break down there as well. I mean, these guys that work for these minor league teams, they do, again, a lot of stuff. And now you're bringing it over, like you said, hometown, city of Oakland, that just recently is about to lose their Major League Baseball team. Now a 3,000 capacity stadium is going to have some minor league baseball, and minor league baseball does great things for the community. I mean, how did this team come about? Just for everybody, and what does it mean for Oakland to have this team now?
So I came onto the project in the start of October. I was the first employee that Brian and Paul, who are our co-founders, hired onto the squad. And it was to handle the baseball, because they're pretty good about business and marketing. They're both from Oakland. They both went to high school together in the East Bay, and they, the sell movement, right? So fans wearing sell the team shirts. They really thought that was great, and maybe they thought, it might not affect the kind of change they want to see. They thought maybe, the voices are being heard, but it won't cause anything to change. So they thought, well, what more can we do? Paul, who has a pretty robust background in starting different kinds of companies, education companies, he had quite a few successful businesses through his career. And so he was in a position where he could say, maybe I could start my own team. And so he approached Brian, and Brian's got a pretty robust background in the movie industry. He's a producer with a background in storytelling. He loves storytelling. So they both loved the idea. They're both big A's fans growing up, as was I. So they thought the idea of starting the team, and it went through different kinds of rounds of talks, figuring out what kind of community investment they could get, what kind of investment they could get, what kind of league they wanted to play in. So, ever since the summer, this has sort of been in the works. And I came onto the project while it was sort of, well on in its existence conceptually.
Gotcha.
And I was brought on to, they can figure out the business and they can figure out this stuff, but they hadn't worked in the baseball industry. So I was, I felt it was a great honor to be given that responsibility from the jump. But like you were saying, with Don and Micah and other guys that we're going to be bringing on the project, it is a Bay Area kind of feel to it. It's, you're putting a fan in charge,
Right.
in me. So you get people who understand what the Bay Area is about, what it's like. Demographically, we're going to be very different from the rest of our league in the Mountain States. I mean, Oakland is a place, there's more languages spoken in Oakland than any city or sort of geographic metro of anywhere in the United States. It's a city deep in culture and history, and we all understand that, and that's why we've gotten such a great response on our launch. People have really welcomed us for open arms. They feel like we're here for them. For years, I, as an A's fan, I sort of felt like they didn't care. There's not been a fan fest in Oakland in years. I mean, they don't do things for the fans. And so, the Howard Terminal, it's beautiful renderings. I always sort of thought that, it was a stadium that would never be built. It looked almost too nice. But that is who we're here for. Both fans who, hey, the A's turn their back on me, then I'm turning the back on the A's. I've got the Ballers now. Or there's a lot of fans who might be like me, who, that is, the A's, like the Raiders or anything else, that's, hey, I got that from my dad. I hang out with my friends and family at the Coliseum. I might be the last human or creature on earth that loves going to the Oakland Coliseum. It is so much fun. I love watching a baseball game there. But for some folks, that's like a family crest to them, and they don't want to give up on the A's, and that's totally fine. But we're also asking, make a little room in your heart for us.
Because the city of Oakland, I mean, baseball, their team gave up on them, but you're asking the fans to not give up on baseball. And that's exactly what this team is kind of providing. It's providing baseball back to the city that's lost so much. So how about the reception then? Like you mentioned, the reception's been great. I mean, I saw the merch was selling out from everybody. I'm sure, people all over are thinking the B's, the A's. It's a interesting way to go about it, because you're just going down the alphabet. When is the C's coming out next? And, how has the reception been for this team as a whole?
I've been really blown away. I had always thought Paul and Brian did their work as far as getting folks on board. They had to know that the fans felt that this was something that, was partially their own creation, that they were going to back it. So they did a lot of work with, the Oakland A's have fan groups the way some European soccer teams have fan groups. Like the Oakland 68s is a fan organization. I really don't know many baseball teams in this country with fan organizations that are almost like unionized. You know what I mean?
Not many. Yeah.
Like So it was very important that they were supporters of the project. We had to get a lot of people, community stakeholders, whoever, that would be, that sort of would have say, that they saw this as a benefit for the community. But honestly, as far as sort of the general public goes, and the kind of response we got on the launch, it has absolutely blown me away. I mean, about 98.5% has been positive comments online, which, online is just the Wild West. And to see that kind of love come in, it's fantastic. We had article after article folks wanting to talk about Oakland. And I think for, a lot of writers, journalists are supposed to be, you and I might know, journalists are supposed to be neutral. I think there were a lot of folks that wanted to write a positive story about Oakland because
Right.
of the sort of the narrative, or what has gone on with the Vegas and the A's. So you saw articles from ESPN, you saw articles from The Athletic, you saw articles from Front Office Sports and Yahoo and the AP, the Daily Mail in England. I mean, you talk about the reach we got off of that. It was incredible. But really, for me, it was all of the positive folks who wanted to come and say, yes, this is awesome. I want to buy your Oaklandish merch. I don't know if you know about Oaklandish, but it's a local, almost sort of, I don't want to say boutique operation, but it's
Right.
It's really nice quality clothes, and they're not cheap either. And fans were snapping them right up from Oaklandish, who have been a fantastic partner with us. And we sold out on the first day. We sold out on the reorder, and then the pre-orders pretty much were all snapped up as well. There's an appetite for something fans can put their name to. For years, it's been hard to buy an A's jersey. I don't know if you know about the Oakland A's, but it's been hard to put a name on a jersey and purchase it. The last jersey I have with a name on it is a Josh Willingham jersey. So, I mean, we're going back to like 2011 there.
Yeah, it's been difficult. It's been different. I mean, the A's, even just if you had players that you want to wear jerseys for, you're not really. It hasn't been much.
No, Matt Chapman, Josh Donaldson, Matt Olson. I mean, we could win the World Series with players we've had any at one time, but it's not all in the same place at the same time.
Same thing with the Tigers, except their owners actually care about the team, but that's a whole different story that you kind of go about. But it seems that you guys have clearly put a lot of effort into this team and have tried to give fans an experience that they're actually going to want to go to. And again, it's what Oakland to in the Bay Area, to see a city lose so many teams, not just because the city doesn't support it, it's because the teams don't support the city. And now you have a team that's actually going out, supporting the city and showing minor league baseball, because I think people forget about minor league baseball and how much community it can provide for people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, one thing that's very important to us is that it's, if the ownership group was saying, hey, Oakland's going to be an emerging market, but Oakland's going to be sort of like, we should put a team there because it'll do well. Like, I don't think the project would work. But because this is a project where it's folks from the East Bay, folks from Oakland, who want to do it for the community, and not necessarily. I mean, obviously, we want to be successful and be a good investment, and and make a profitable company. But I mean, the goal is to revitalize the community in the baseball sense. We want to contribute to youth baseball in the city as well. There's a lot of projects, a lot of cooperative projects that we want to do down the line as well. And this is year one, and we could. There's so many great ideas coming from the folks who work with us, and it's like, all right, it's year one. What do we have to do in year one? What are the things we really should do in year one? And what's like, okay, this is awesome, but maybe it's a year two thing. We got to figure out what those all are. But there's a huge emphasis on making it community based. On the player ops side, have an emphasis on scouting local talent. So whether it's guys who grew up in the area, guys who go to Cal, Stanford, St. Mary's, whatever it might be, those seniors graduating, giving them an opportunity to either get drafted higher or to sign a contract afterward. That's an emphasis I want to place as well. We want it to be community-based. We want it to have a local kind of feel to it. And we want to win a championship as well. So we feel that we can offer players one of the best situations as far as visibility, pay, the coaching and support system that they'll have. And we want to win a championship off that.
I mean, for the Pioneer League, it's a great opportunity for them as well, because they get a team that's going to garner a lot of attention. And let's talk about the Pioneer League a little bit. How does this kind of play into it, being able to help that league out and help independent baseball really as a whole?
Well, I think you saw the Pioneer League put out a statement when we were announced. This is going to be one of two teams in California that will be launching this year. We're an 11th team, and I think if you're a a good reporter, you'll think, all right, well, you can't have 11 teams. There's going to be a 12. So
Right.
the league, teased, and they'll release it next month, I believe, where exactly that 12th team will be in California. But we're the start of 2 teams, and what they want to start is a Pacific West division. So if that is, who knows where they want to take that, but we are a new market in the league. I've been in Idaho. I've been in Colorado with teams in this league. California is different, socioeconomically. It's different climately. I mean, you're looking at ballparks that are 4,000 feet and above. Colorado Springs, I don't know if you know this, but Colorado Springs has the highest elevation ballpark in the entire U.S.
Wow.
6,531. It's 700 feet higher than Coors.
Oh my
So we had to have a humidifier. If you want to think about 700 feet higher than Coors.
You have no choice.
So we're going to be at sea level now, and this is a hitter's league. This is, I've seen games. I am a pitch clock convert. I love the pitch clock because I was watching 4.5-hour games in 2021.
Yep.
We got that down to an average about 3 for 23. So, a lot of 17, 16 games. We've shortened that down a little bit. We're going to be at sea level. We're going to focus on, pitching defense up the middle. We want to run. The power will come. Guys will hit. It's a hitter's league. But it is going to be different for the Pioneer League. I think it's going to be a good expansion for them. It's a team that wants to get into markets. You look at some of the markets that is losing baseball. And if the Pioneer League hadn't shifted to the independent status, you would have had 10 communities in a whole. I got the map behind me. You would think about, between California and Missouri, there's one baseball team. That's the Colorado Rockies. You got a huge area, unless you want to go down really south with the Diamondbacks, you have a huge area that does not cater to baseball. So you were going to wipe out the only baseball. This is what Major League Baseball is going to do. Wipe out the only baseball in all those areas with no alternative. So keeping it as an independent league, the community still supported it. The communities were, if anything, more excited because the teams were able to do more exciting promotions, different things with their players than they could before, because in the system, there's certain rules and you can't have players do this and that, and teams have to sign off on that, whatever it might be, promotional appearances, community stuff. But now they can do a lot more because it's up to them. So for the Pioneer League, it could be the start of something very interesting for them. Certainly is going to add a lot to them this year as far as visibility.
They're just filling the gaps. And you mentioned the offensive league pitch clock thing. If you're calling a doubleheader pre-pitch clock, I mean, forget about it. I'm sure that's had to happen before. Yeah.
No, dude. It was 96 games of 3:30 to 4:30. And then a 12-hour bus ride back home.
Yep, that'll do it.
I've been there.
That's just the grind of minor league baseball. I mean, the grind of minor league baseball, especially for broadcasters, is something that I think a lot of people don't talk about. And for the players, obviously, yes. But obviously, we're going to talk about the broadcasters for sure. I mean, you're doing the same trips that they're doing and all of that. Obviously, you're not playing the game, but you have to entertain the masses for however long they're playing. I mean, the first game of the season is going to be in Montana against the Glacier Range Riders on May 21st. So you're going to open a lot of that on the road as well. So you're going to be on the road a lot. I mean, that grind on the road with these teams is something else.
Yeah, and I think, for me, the most important aspect of that was when I was with Idaho Falls that first year, traveling every day with them. These guys, these are not your first round big money blue chip prospects. These are not guys that have been given a lot. These are guys who are fighting for really their last chance. There are about a dozen guys each year that make it out of the league during the season. There's a lot more guys make it off season, but as far as during the season, you really respect the grind when you watch these guys day in, day out, go through their routines, keep their head down, try to do it the right way. Sometimes, and it varies facility to facility, there's not always a spread. Sometimes there's not. I've been on a bus that is broken down in the middle of the highway in Utah at 3 a.m. Wow. What do? You just go sit on the road until it gets fixed.
You figure it out.
it's the fun of it. There's definitely like a charm to it. And it's just like, sometimes it's, dear God, what am I doing? But it is the grind, and you are part of that as a broadcaster. So you do get to live that life vicariously, or not even vicariously. You get to live that life alongside these players, because you are doing the same things with them. So when I was taking over the baseball ops role, it gave me a much better understanding of, okay, what are the kinds of things players want? Players want to know that their efforts are for something, that we can get their video out to teams, we can get their stats out to teams, we can make them visible. There's a lot I can't do. There's a lot I'd love to do. We don't have an endless supply of funds or anything like that. There's a lot of stuff you could do if you want, but there's one thing I can control is like, hey, like I learned I know I'm a video editor, so I can take video, I can take the stats from TrackMan, I can package that, and then I can email those off to front offices. Like, those are the kinds of things that I thought, okay, if I'm going to create a program for players, what can I leverage as something other teams aren't doing to, one, recruit well, because that is a recruiting tool, but to really look them in the eye and say, we are trying to help you. We want you to come here. We want you to play for us and help you succeed, but this is what we're doing for you, and we will try to help you get you there.
It's an interesting role, because a lot of the time, when you're a broadcaster, you're kind of looked, I guess, more on the journalist side. You're covering the team. You're doing that. When you talk to a player, you're trying to kind of get something out of them. But you, as in the role you're doing something for them as well. As it's a much more mutual relationship. How does it affect, the way that you have access to players at this point, and also just the broadcast? Your approach to the broadcast.
I would say, when I was with Idaho Falls and I was broadcaster first and like traveling secretary second.
Yeah.
I had the trust of the players, because they knew, I'd take care of them with the food and the travel. And if something went wrong, I'd get blamed,
Yeah, of course.
But in the role I have, they know I'm working on their behalf. They're more receptive to doing interviews, to doing signings, to doing some of the media relations things that I ask of them. And it is a different dynamic than affiliated minor league baseball, where there isn't a sort of a coercion to have to do media. You have to do things. There's certain things in place to where the whoever might be the parent club can say, well, they don't have to do media. So I never try to force my players to do anything, but when I ask them, hey, the newspapers here, can you give them a quote? They're usually more than happy to do that, because they know I'm working on their behalf. To have their name out there for something like that, it's better, because for me, there's the baseball strategy and the media strategy, and I kind of marry both of those together in what I'm doing, because if I'm promoting the player within the media, I can take that same kind of concept and translate that to front offices, to farm directors, package it differently, but still try to get the same thing out of there. So when I talk about player marketing in my role, that's the kind of stuff I'm doing. Now, as a broadcaster, it's unique. I'm probably the only person in the United States doing this, which is fun for me, because for my career, that's my career as a broadcaster. I do TV work for the Pac-12 network, RIP, and I've done TV work for Mountain West, for some colleges. That is what my career is, and for this job, that is sort of my secondary function. But I can, I do a ton of preparation on meeting notes, but I can roll out of bed easier and do the broadcasting. Whereas this portion demands more focus. It demands me being on my phone for 9 hours a day, which I'm totally cool with in the off season, because it's a ton of fun. It's not like doing fantasy baseball or doing MLB The Show and putting together a great team. It is more about the joy of it comes a little bit from that in the back of my mind, but the joy of it really is fighting for these guys day in, day out to give them a chance to move up. And that is something I got to see early on in my career, and that's something that sort of informs my decision making now.
Yeah, and so you kind of mentioned that preparation side of, because if you don't know anything about broadcasting, preparation is probably about 90% of what you do.
Yes.
You can call a great game, but you gotta know your stuff. So you have to balance, making sure your spotting board's correct, making sure you have all these stories and stats ready, and also making sure that these players are also, being marketed well to teams and the talent's correct and you're scouting your local talent enough. How do you, balance all of that and still prepare properly to put on a good call at the end of the day?
Well, it kind of is shared, which is really nice,
Right.
and it's something, if I go back to 22 when I was with the Vibes, so I took over as director of baseball ops in 23. In 22, that was my second full year in the league. I had seen a lot of these players before because I had done all the games. I sort of knew their tendencies. I sort of knew, what pitchers might throw what pitch at what time. And so that was the first time I started to get into, talking with our manager and saying, here's a little scouting report. Here's a printout of, the heat map for balls and strikes. So that was sort of my first foray into that side of it. And it came from a position of where, okay, there might not be another person in this league. There's a couple of other broadcasters who've been as long as I have, but who have seen more Pioneer League baseball, which is sort of its own little fun thing. And I use that to my advantage in that regard. So the preparation is all sort of baked into it. So I got my game notes, 14 pages, try to do them every day. I found that didn't really become an everyday thing last year with the amount of stuff I was doing. I had a great assistant in Rocky Mountain who helped me out. Shout out Hudson. He's taking over for me there next year. But he was super helpful in helping me prepare as well. But I mean, really, if I've scouted these guys and I've talked with them, personally, baseball side, whatever it is, I almost really don't need to do any extra preparation at that point because I've got the personal relationship with each one of them, which is sort of the thing we were taught to not have when you're with a team, which is not to get too close to the players, to not try to be their friend when you're a journalist or you're a broadcaster. And so I sort of walk a fine line now is when I'm broadcasting, I think, okay, I still will be critical when I need to be critical because that is the ethical thing to do. But I have to, I try not to let that get in the way of it. I certainly don't, pump them up more than I would otherwise. So I still try to be very fair. I try to sort of compartmentalize it. I try not to be an AGM on the radio, and I try not to be a broadcaster in my recruiting process.
Yeah, I mean, there's got to be an interesting way to go. Like you said, you're probably one of the, if not the only person in America doing minor league baseball in this way. You have to wear so many hats and you only have one head. So it's really tough to do. I mean, obviously this first year with the Ballers as well. In this specific situation, how is that, going to work for you? Do you have like an idea of how you're going to prepare and do it properly on the call, or is this just kind of figure it out as you go along, trial and error?
Well, like I said, I think, the preparation is all baked into the stuff I'm doing now. I'll know, I mean, I have, well, I'll just notes after notes of players that we are recruiting, notes after notes of players that we've signed. I'm going to know our guys back and front. Like
Right.
that, the preparation side for me on that side is more about, getting it all down on paper and in my media notes day in, day out. A lot of it's going to be second nature to me now. I mean, we talk about, we start 6 on the road in Glacier. Then we have 6 on the road in Rocky Mountain. Well, Rocky Mountain's where I was last year. I know that team up and down, might be learning 10 new names, or Glacier, learning different names. And I think it's like anything else. Like if you stay within the same college conference year after year, the seniors will graduate and then your sophomores become juniors. You're gonna have a pretty good idea watching guys year after year. So for me, some of the unknowns are what do game days look like in this setting? What do the stadium operation duties look like before games starts? We're still hiring a lot of our staff. We're looking for a general manager. So we are wearing a lot of hats right now in the off season, and you do anyway in minor league baseball. But we are going to have to see, what those day in, day out look like.
It's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting for sure. Obviously, very exciting at the first part. You know, there's a lot of iron to work out, but at the end of the day, it's bringing baseball back to Oakland. That's fun in and of itself, and it's great. Thank you so much for coming on. Do you have anything else you need to add, promote about this team? What do you got? Your floor is
Well,
yours.
the schedule's out, 96 games. If anyone wants to come say hi, just hit us up on Oakland Ballers on Twitter, unless we're calling it X now.
We call it Twitter.
And
We call it Twitter over here.
Oakland.Ballers on Instagram if you want to follow us along. We'll have some player announcements coming up this week. And we'll probably have one or two couple big announcements in the next month or so too. So it's gonna be a very exciting time. The gear, if it's sold out, we are trying to get more. But thanks for having me on. You know, I love doing media stuff. I love talking with other broadcasters. It's gonna be really exciting. It's gonna be super busy off season, but we're hoping to put together a pretty good fan experience, player program, and we're looking to win a championship in this first year.
We'll see what happens. Good best of luck in winning that championship, being a part of it, and in all the ways you do, not just calling it, but having a hand in it as well. Break Panel Sports, we got a new minor league baseball team, the Oakland Ballers. Tyler, thank you so much again for joining on. I've been John McCooch, joined alongside Tyler Petersen. It's been a pleasure. Have a good one.
Thanks, John.